everyone. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. And yep, we have another big week in energy. So right now, the geomagnetic field has been up and it's sort of starting to level out, but we're still in a level 4. So it's on the KP index is at a level 4 right now. It was at a level 5 yesterday, and it looks like we're kind of holding there. And I think that's because we've got some CMEs and solar flares coming in. So we might actually see it bounce back up. So that means a lot of electromagnetic activity happening, and people are going to be feeling it. And you might notice it with technology, especially with things like GPS and radio waves tend to be affected a lot with the electromagnetic field. But you'll also feel maybe more tired or suddenly tired. Maybe you'll feel really bouncy and like you have a lot of energy. We all react to it differently. So whatever's coming in, if it's good energy for you, like enjoy that. And if it's kind of wearing you out, just take deep breaths, drink plenty of water, and you know that your body is adjusting to the energy field. Other things that are happening is we now have 6 planets in retrograde, with Mercury about to go direct. So tomorrow on September 14th is the new moon in Virgo, and just hours after that, Mercury will station direct. We will still be in Mercury retrograde's shadow, which means things are still wrapping up, and that I think can take about 5 to 7 days. So we might not feel Mercury going to direct, but it's going to feel like we're wrapping things up. And with this new moon in Virgo, Virgo is a sign that rules over our health and work, and specifically the body-mind connection. And so there is a lot of focus on Mercury retrograde, because Mercury is actually the ruler of Virgo. So when the moon is in Virgo, the sub-ruler is Mercury. So that's where the spotlight is, and it's about cleaning up the mind or behaviors and getting on track with better behaviors. And when I asked the team what the message was for this week, they repeated basically that is the focus. And they said, be aware, be alert, make this the priority. That what is meant to happen at this time, what's most cosmically aligned, is actually doing that cleanup work, looking at your life and going, where do I want my life to go? And what's happening right now that actually gets in the way of that, right? So for example, maybe you want to have more time in the day to get things done, but you tend to sleep in late. Well, then you can see that your goal is to get more things done, but the habit is sleeping in late. And so in order to experience your goal, you're going to have to adjust that behavior. What you'll find with Mercury in retrograde is a lot of stuff, a lot of blasts from the past coming back up. And again, I said that I think a couple of times now since we've been in Mercury retrograde for a few weeks. But it's really important, and this one really is doing the deep cleaning work on the psyche. So really patterns all the way back to childhood. So whatever causes your inner child to get triggered or reactive, that's what's happening. I personally experienced it. It's not very fun, but the beautiful thing is that you have more awareness right now. And the team talks about, don't get caught up in the illusion or the stories you tell yourself, right? Get right to the heart of what is true. If you stay focused on the illusion, that's where confusion comes in. So illusion equals confusion. So if the story you're telling is that so-and-so is doing this to me, that's the story. There's the illusion. If you get caught up in that, you can't see the behavioral cleanup work that you're being asked to do, because it's a body-mind connection. And you want to know something extra crazy, is your subconscious mind takes everything personally. Everything personally. That means that it's not just what you say about yourself that the subconscious mind will act on, but also what you say about other people. It will also act on. So I want you to really think about that. When I dug into that research, it suddenly made sense why on a spiritual level, spiritual teachers often talk about be careful of what you say about other people. And of course, I'm sure you've heard that saying that when you point the finger at someone else, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. And I've heard this, but hearing it directly state that the subconscious mind will take everything personally, no matter what who you are referring to. It will assume you mean you. So if you go back into your stories and you can understand why it's so important to detach from your stories and break that cycle, break the illusion. Because if you're like, so-and-so is rude, they are insensitive, they don't care about me, they don't care about my feelings, they're always attacking me, they're always doing this. If that's what you're focused on, you know what your subconscious mind is hearing is, this is who I am. I am the one who always attacks me. I am the one, right, who always tears me down, is rude, whatever it is. It's not distinguishing that you're talking about someone else. Even if your conscious mind can, that subconscious part of you takes it in as information to act on. And if you're caught up in the illusion, if you're caught up in your stories and you're always telling your stories and you're looking for people to tell your story to, because let's face it, when we believe our story, we like to share that with other people, right? It's not that we are actively trying to make ourselves a victim, but we feel that it helps us explain who we are, and it helps other people understand us, maybe give us the break we're not giving ourselves, right? So if we're constantly telling those stories, we're constantly informing the internal part of ourselves, create this is who I am, this is what I am, create it. And so the message this week is to break it. Break that habit. Break the illusion. Separate yourself from the story. Be less interested in your story and more interested in how you're operating. So a great tool to use is to simply acknowledge your story. Because again, events do happen to us. This isn't to say that something didn't happen, but we tend to elaborate and build off of what happened. So 1% of our story is the truth, and the other 99% is the illusion we build around that truth. For example, let's say you got in a car accident. The car accident in and of itself is the truth. You did get in the car accident. The story you tell about how you were driving so carefully and then out of nowhere this person just rammed right into you, and you get into it and they were reckless and they were wild and they weren't paying attention and they're a terrible driver, or they had something out for me because I'm a female, whatever it is. All of that is the illusionary story you built around the truth, the core event of the car accident, right? And again, we get very invested in our stories. So you might find that as you go to break down the story, you get triggered again. Your ego does not like letting go of the story, but it is for your benefit because it just keeps building the same form. It's almost like reassuring. It's almost like you're renewing a horrible book that you read. Then you're like, this book is awful, but I'm going to go back and renew it and keep checking it out, keep reading this book. And as we do that, we keep reinvesting our energy into the story. So a great tool to break this cycle is to use one of Brene Brown's tools, and that is to acknowledge, this is the story I'm telling. So before you say your story, it can help you to start breaking it down by saying, the story I'm telling myself is that this person is a reckless driver who is intending to hurt me because I'm a female driver, and they thought they could take advantage of me, if that's the story you're making up, right? But what you're doing is you're creating that little space between you and the story you tell. And as you do that, this little glimmer of air, this air builds up between you and the story, and you can actually start to look at it and go, if that's the story I'm telling myself, why do I tell myself this story? What does it mean? How do I benefit from telling this story? Well, maybe the benefit in my car accident scenario is that I'm afraid that people think I'm a bad driver because I got into a car accident. So if I can frame the story in a way that makes me look like the victim of it, then no one will question my driving ability. And maybe they'll feel empathy for me, or, compassion for me for having gone through that. So we have lots of reasons why we build our stories, and usually it's to protect ourselves from our own thoughts, the own criticism we have towards ourselves for making a mistake, or we need protection, and this story acts as a form of protection. It's like we weave protection around ourselves from telling that story. But now is the time to start putting these habits away and recognizing that by continuing the habit, we keep ourselves out of joy and out of alignment with who we are trying to be, and we're reinforcing negative habits or old patterns that no longer serve us. And the higher we go in frequency, and we're constantly going higher, in fact, it gets more intense from here. It doesn't ease up, it gets more intense, but you will be able to handle it. You will adjust to that. But as it gets more intense, the old patterns, the things that don't serve us, they feel more painful in our system. Because as we go through this energy, dense, negative emotion can't come with us. So the higher we go in frequency, the heavier the patterns and the things we hold on to feel. And so with this new moon, it's a big opportunity, having Mercury clearing it out, saying, look at this story you keep telling, look at the little web you spun around this event to create this pattern of thinking or behavior. It's time to take it down now, because this doesn't serve you where it served you at one point, and it sure did. It did serve us, right? Whether it made us feel better about ourselves, whether it gave us a break, whether it gained us compassion or got us something easier than we would have gotten without it, it served its purpose, but it can't come with you. And so you might notice as you go up in frequency, the subconscious mind will constantly try to clear your karma. That's one of the other things it does. I freaking love our subconscious minds, because it is always working to heal you and recalibrate you. It is always working to balance you. So the longer we hold on to something, the more it kind of kicks up. It's like your subconscious will go, hey, she's up-leveled in energy. I see that she's getting more conscious. You're meditating more. Oh, you're moving in the direction that you desire. Great. We got some baggage that we need to get rid of now. So I'm going to kick it up, bring it back up into your consciousness. And usually it's those moments where you remember something where it's like, oh, that was humiliating, or I can't believe I acted that way, or I feel so guilty or ashamed of that. It kicks it up, not because it's trying to be like, remember when you were such a brat. It's not trying to do that. It's saying, I can recognize now that you have new skills and ability, you have a bigger tool set, and you have more emotional maturity. So you're ready now to close this account, if you will. It's been open for a long time. We're going to close this emotional account and let it go. And so it will kick it up again back into your consciousness to give you the opportunity to resolve it. And if you go, oh, I can't think about that. Oh, yuck, something else. Let me focus on something else. What you're doing is you're basically kicking it out of your consciousness, and it goes back into your subconscious mind. And the subconscious is like, okay, I'm going to refile that, and we'll come back later to it. So it's never done until it's consciously resolved, until you can go, I forgive myself. I did the best I could in that moment. I know better now, and I understand why that happened. As soon as we can get to that place, resolution happens, and it's karmically done. So we're in a period where you can either get in front of this, and by getting in front of it, you're actively looking for it. You're like ready. You're like, okay, these are the things I want, and this is why I don't have it yet. In fact, that's a great list to write. Okay, so I would love for you tomorrow with the new moon to write that down. Here's the list of the things I want, and let yourself go crazy. And then if you don't have these things yet, the second column is, and here are the things I keep doing that are out of alignment with that. For example, I want to get up early. I want to be an early bird, but I stay up late. or I sleep in, right? Or I want to start writing a book, but every time I sit down at the computer, I freeze or I get nervous or I overthink it instead of just writing. Things like that. As you do that, it's going to make it clear. Your first column is what you want. That's who you're trying to align to. And the second column is what you've got to be willing to let go of, what you've got to be willing to shift or clean up to get what you want. If you want help or assistance doing that, you could come and join me at tomorrow's new moon spirit circle in Virgo. We will be doing this work. I will be going into more detail about what the cosmos is saying and how it's asking us to move forward. And then we're going to actually sit down and do this work together. And of course, there's always psychic Q&A at the end. So if that sounds exciting to you, go to this link below. It's in the description and click on it and come join us. All right, so now let's check out this week's karma card. All right, if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message for this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers. A set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and feel, what do you need right now? Are you looking for action steps? Are you looking for outcomes? And of course, you can always choose both. And while you're choosing, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for September 13th through the 20th. And the flavor of this reading, well, we've got Pluto. This is the power purge planet. And I feel like the focus might be on purge because of the message that came through just before this in the sign of Scorpio. I mean, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. And so there is this deep dig for truth. And Scorpio is that sign that talks about pulling it up from the darkness, up from the subconscious mind, right? The Pluto would kind of have that subconscious mind aspect to it. It goes deep, deep in, right? And so this is about the truth coming up and out. And then we've got the 9th house, which is about mental expansion. So we can see that this deep digging, this purging of all of this, all these patterns and things we don't need anymore is for your spiritual expansion and growth. All right. For those who are choosing action, your spiritual action at this time is to resurrect the extraordinary power of prayer as if it came from God. So here's the beautiful thing. As I'm thinking about, okay, what are you saying here? I'm going back to the subconscious mind takes everything personally. So the way you talk to God is also the way your subconscious mind hears it about you. So when we're praying, we're doing the asking, and the subconscious mind is the form builder. And so it's basically whatever you're asking, whatever you're praying for, the subconscious mind is listening, it's taking it in, and it's taking that prayer, the asking, and it's saying, okay, this is what we build now. So it is a very powerful tool. Prayer is powerful. And from the way that I see it, God, the energy of God, a lot of times we externalize it. We put it outside of ourselves, but that's to weaken the power of God. I mean, God is all around. The source energy, the universe, whatever you want to call it, it literally is everywhere, but it's also within you. And I feel like that's the most powerfully resonant place to connect with it. I think of it, when I think of connecting to source, I go right into the temple of the heart, and I see this beautiful golden pink temple in the center of my heart. And as the doors open, it's opening to the infinite all. It's opening to the prime creator. And so having that relationship with God, where God is within you, and God is in your heart, and the way that you access is to go within. Now, when you go in, you're connected to all, right? So not only can you go within, then you feel everything around you. But my point is that when you ask and when you're connecting with your subconscious mind, the form builder, what we also want to understand is the way that the mind is built. It's like, I always go back to the metaphor of the iceberg, because at the tip, the thing we can see would represent our conscious mind. And the piece below, the greater piece below that midsection of the iceberg would be your personal I want to say like vault or tome or whatever it is that's, collecting your experience, the personal part of your subconscious mind. But your subconscious mind goes deeper and deeper and deeper and becomes a superconscious mind. And this is where all minds connect together. And this is prime creator energy. This is where God is as well. So it's this beautiful thing that's happening inside of you where your personal subconscious mind is taking in what you're asking for and starting to build it, but it goes even deeper down and it's connecting to all. And this is a very powerful energy to work with and can be very helpful when trying to alleviate old patterns or break old behavior. Mental action at this time. Get to the heart of the highest and lowest aspects of philosophies and the laws involved. All right, get to the heart of the highest and lowest aspects of philosophies and the laws involved. So my team is saying that this is talking about getting to the heart of what's behind your story. Why did you start telling the story you did that sort of defends the behavior or the habit or the pattern that's been maintained? Behind all of that, there is this little seed of, this is why I do this. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to stand out. I don't want to be lost. I don't want blah, 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 blah. There's always something right at the heart of this behavior. And if you are stopping at the story that you're telling, you're not getting to the heart of it. And that's why saying it like, the story I'm telling myself is, then you can start asking myself, why do I tell that story? Well, I don't want people to think I'm a bad driver. Okay, well then what does being a bad driver mean? Being a bad driver means I'm incompetent. And what does incompetence mean? Incompetence means I'm stupid. And what does being stupid mean? I lack value. And what does lacking value mean? I have no worth. Boom. Right? So all of this thing about somebody else hit you and what a horrible person they are all comes back to feeling worthy. Crazy, right? So this is what it's talking about. You want to find out why. And until you can, and you kind of keep asking the question of why. What does that mean? What does that mean is a really strong question when we're digging. What does this mean to me? And as you ask yourself that, more information comes out. You'll finally get to that heart when there's nothing else it means. It's simply like, I have value. I'm worried I don't have value. Somehow I got the message that I don't have value, right? And when you get to that point, that's the pain point, and that's where the healing starts, because obviously you do have value. Obviously you have value, and that's usually reflected around you, but when we're not acknowledging our own value, then we can't see it around us, and we can't see that there are people who admire you or do think you're smart or see your competence, right? We lose all of that because we're so attached to the story that we believe protects us from being vulnerable to those kind of statements or thoughts. I hope that metaphor made sense. Physical action at this time. Do or die. Do or die. You must control the situation and do it in a big way. Now this is funny because this is the second time that the message of get ready or do it, it's now, has come up today. When I was asking the team, they were like, be alert, be ready. And now it's happening again. So this is serious. They want you in there right now. And I don't think it means you have to do it with the new moon or you've missed the window, because there's a 2-week window where the new moon works out its energy. So it's not that. But it is urgent, like this is the job right now. And it's really interesting because I just did a new podcast with Amber Romaniak today about September 23rd, which is kind of a fun rabbit hole one. If you want to watch that, you should check it out. But there's urgency in the messages we got at the end of that too. There is this urgency of this is the test. We're in the test and the exam, because remember, Earth in and of itself is an advanced graduate program. It's very hard to get into and it's tricky to master. And we often take it for granted while we're here. We're like, oh, this is so hard. It's better somewhere else. And it's like, my team's always like kind of rolling their eyes. They're like, you don't understand how hard you work to get here and how hard other souls are working to get here. So this is a special place, whether we like it or not. It's a very special place, and it is a very advanced program, and we are in exams. We are really getting close to graduation. So this is some of the exam work, and the most important exam work we do is the stuff we can do on ourselves, because remember, that's the only aspect that we actually have any control over. Everything else is more illusory. The further out you go from yourself, the more illusory it becomes, right? So there's urgency in this, that they want us to do it. It's like you need to be stronger than your excuses. You need to be stronger than your need for comfort at this time. You need to be stronger than your urge to avoid it, and stronger than any denial. Because these are the things that lie between you graduating and not. And it doesn't mean to say, I'm not trying to imply that if you don't work on yourself more, you're not going to go anywhere. I don't mean it to sound like that. I just mean that that my team hits me with this constantly. It's like, this is what it's about. Don't get too caught up in the outer movie that you're really enjoying, that's very spicy and wild and erratic. That's actually not what it's about. It's about you. And the more you do this work, the easier everything outside of you becomes. It becomes clear. You feel less reactionary and more responsive. But the only way to get more responsive is to do this inner work. And so there's urgency, and I want you to do it now. And that do it in a big way is, again, be bigger than your excuses. Be bigger than your denial. Be bigger than the story you tell. In fact, as soon as you acknowledge I'm telling a story, that makes you a storyteller. Now you're not the hero in the story anymore. You're the storyteller, which means you're writing the story. Ooh, what a powerful position to be in, right? So be bigger than the hero of the story. Be the writer of the story. I really like that. Be bigger than the hero of the story. I hope I remember to put that as the title, because I really like it. Okay, now let's look at outcomes for Pluto in Scorpio in the 9th house of mental expansion. The spiritual outcome at this time is the need for control of purification to resurrect spiritual values. Boom. Boom. I wanted to throw them down, but then I realized they'll just fly everywhere. The need for control of purification to resurrect spiritual values. You got to be bigger than the hero of the story. You've got to be the writer. The writer is in control of the story. The one who tells the story. It's like I always say, you want to be J.K. Rowling, not Harry Potter, because J.K. Rowling's creating the world. Harry Potter is living in the world, right? So this is where that self-control, the discipline really comes in. And either you love discipline because you understand how powerful it is, or you hear discipline and you go, ugh. I've done both. I used to be the, discipline. And the older I get, the more excited I get about discipline, because discipline leads to mastery. And I want mastery in my life. And so therefore, you could look at it this way. The need for mastery of purification, right? So these stories are stories I'm telling myself, they're not me. That's the first step of purification, right? To resurrect spiritual values. So the more we clear out the heaviness and the old patterns, the more mentally sharp we are, but also the more spiritual acuity we have. And the more spiritual acuity, the easier this whole plane is to navigate. It's like you're getting your 40,000 foot vision, the more spiritual acuity you have. So again, we want to look at how can I have mastery over myself, which creates the purification that helps me resurrect my spiritual values. All right, mental outcome at this time, an obsession with the secrets of long-range thinking and travels. So if you're like me, probably hearing some of this message is amping you up. I kind of feel amped up. I'm like, yeah, I want mastery and I want to be bigger than the hero. I want to be the creator, right? So that can amp you up, and it can make you feel like, okay, I want this. I want to get over myself. I want to get over the past. I want to get over the things that I tell myself that hold me in a pattern, right? And I want to see bigger and beyond this moment. I'd like to see beyond my story right now. So you might feel like this, and you'll feel that urgency. If you're not feeling it yet, you'll feel it after you listen. I don't know, but I feel, maybe because I've been getting the message all day, but I feel the urgency, and that can create this sort of like laser focused in energy. This message is good through the 20th. Let's see what a week of laser focusing can do. But have grace with it, right? We don't want to go into the harder aspects of Virgo or Scorpio or Pluto. We don't want to go into that rigidity, but the focus, right? The discipline, the mastery energy. I'm going to return to this. I'm going to dig in there. I'm going to see what's activated right now. I'm going to see if I can clear it. And then if I clear it, I give myself the break. I let myself pause. I go out in nature. I focus in on something I love. I take a break. And then as I feel the next thing coming up, I go all in. Right? I focus in. I get my mastery back on. All right, physical outcome at this time, a power struggle resulting from the power. So a power struggle resulting from the power of what is to be shared. All right, the power struggle I sense here is between yourself and the ego, right? The ego is your storyteller, and the ego highly identifies with the hero, because the hero of a story doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't necessarily mean that they're strong, confident, true. I mean, that's what I would associate with a hero, as someone who is like in alignment and on the straight path. No, the hero can constantly be a victim. It just means the center of attention of the story. It's the one on the journey that we're watching. That's the hero, right? So this hero's journey, it could be one that's full of valor and victory, or it could be one that's full of, misery and victimhood and constant scapegoating. So the ego loves the hero's journey because it can identify, it can like really focus in on, what its favorite thing to focus in on is individuality and me, right? And then the power struggle is, if I let go of that story, who am I? The story tells me something about myself, right? So I'll use my car accident metaphor again. That story tells me I'm the victim. I'm innocent. I'm a good driver. I am a law-abiding citizen. I always follow the rules. That story tells me so much about myself. It also tells me I'm a victim and other people are out to get me and the world's a bad place and I can't trust anyone. But it's worth it for the other things it tells me, where it's reaffirming an identity, right? So the ego isn't going to give that up so easily. And you might find that you have a hard time giving it up too, because those are nice things to think about yourself. But can you think those things about yourself without the story? And your higher self will go, yep, yep, those things are inherent about you. You are a good person. And you do follow the rules when appropriate. And, we don't need the story to affirm ourselves, but we do that and we're used to it. And we're taught that way. That's how we understand the world. We teach each other through our stories. When I go and hang out with my friends, I'm hearing the stories of their lives. I'm sharing the stories of my life, and the movies and the books we read and everything around us it's very much based on storytelling, and human beings are incredible storytellers. It's one of our gifts. It's just a gift that can be used against us. It's just like everything else, right? Like free energy or something like that. And I'm trying to think of something like lasers. Okay, lasers can be used in a positive way. They can enhance things. They can be used to build things or heal things or create things, but they can also be used destructively. And storytelling is the same way. So there is a struggle about letting this go. It's not an easy task, because it feels formative and informative. It feels like it, because it's doing both, right? It's informing me and it's formative from the subconscious point of view because it's building it. But if you're tired of reliving the same story over and over again, if you feel like, why do I keep attracting this, or why does this keep happening? pay attention to the stories that you're telling, because that's going to be the answer right there. So with that, I'm sending you so much love. I know you can do this. I'm going to work on it too. It's urgent because there's some better things coming, and we don't need these stories anymore. We've read the book several times. It's time to return it to the library and write a new story. And with that, I'm sending you so much love. Mwah.